What's up, reefers? In today's video, we're going to be continuing our series on ideal parameters to keep your reef tank. Today I'll be discussing temperature, how to test temperature, the ideal temperature should be, and how to maintain that temperature in your reef tank. First off, I want to start out with testing temperature. What I like to use are these infrared. You just push a button, aim it at your tank, and you're able to get an accurate reading. I still keep these on hand, these glass aquarium thermometers. I think these are fairly accurate, and it's always good to test your equipment. I know that Hannah makes good ones that you dip in. There's little controllers that you can connect to your tank and have a visual to see all the time. I also use Inkbrid heater controllers, which also give a temperature reading, and my Apex as well. So the ideal temperature, I believe, would be right around 78 degrees. I think the range that you should stay within is 76 to 80. I think that's where things are most happy. Now, a few degrees warmer than that and a few degrees cooler than that most likely is not going to cause catastrophic events, but you're also getting close to that line where you could. I've personally ran tanks as warm as 82 degrees and as cool as 74 degrees. I'm not saying that that's good or that you should. I'm just using that to emphasize that a few degrees too warm or a few degrees too cool isn't going to cause catastrophic events in your reef tank. I think primarily most important is stability. Whatever temperature you're at, if you stay at that temperature, things tend to settle in and acclimate and do well. If you fluctuate quite a bit, things could stress and potentially die or be stressed out and not do well. So heating and cooling, how do you maintain that temperature in your reef tank? We'll talk about cooling first. I think there's two main ways people use to cool their reef tanks. The first being an aquarium chiller. A chiller basically works much like your home air conditioner system, except instead of pumping warm air in and cool air out, you're pumping warmer water in and it's pushing colder water out. These tend to use a little more electricity, fairly cost prohibitive for budget reefers, and I think that they're not quite necessary for most reefers. For me in the beginning, my first summer with a reef tank, I hit about 80 degrees and I freaked out and I jumped on OfferUp and I found a used chiller. I hooked it up and it actually worked really well. I used that for the first couple of years. I noticed during summer my electric bill probably went up about $40 or $50 a month until I found surface fans. I'd heard about them. I didn't really think they were good. And I got one and inadvertently gave it a shot, and to my surprise it actually worked very well. Now using surface fans, I don't think most reefers need a chiller unless they're in an extreme hot condition. The surface fans do work extremely well. The way the surface fans work is either across the surface of your display tank or even in the surface of your sump. They blow a fan that blows air across the surface of the water, which causes evaporation. Through the process of evaporation, it actually chills the water. One thing to keep in mind is that when you are using the fans, you are causing more evaporation than would happen normally. So make sure that your ATO is topped off, and if you're topping off by hand, just keep in mind that you will most likely have to top off more often. The other thing I'd like to talk about is heater controllers. I know personally I have lost 2 tanks to malfunctioning heaters. Heaters are only going to fail in 2 ways. They're either going to fail on or they're going to fail off. If they fail on and you don't catch it, it will kill everything in your aquarium. So most heaters have an internal thermostat. The thermostat, when it reaches a certain degree, it drops down to a certain degree, it'll kick on. When it reaches your ideal temperature, it'll turn off, and it'll use that mechanism to basically maintain a stable temperature in your tank. These heaters are known to fail, and if they fail in the on position where the thermostat does not turn the heater off and it continues to go, the tank will just get hotter and hotter until it's to a point where everything in your tank can't take it, and it unfortunately succumbs to the excessive heat. What a heater controller does is your heater plugs into that. The heater controller itself also has a thermostat that goes into your tank, most likely your sump, and it will detect if it reaches what you set to be your max. It'll disconnect or turn off the power to the heater. So therefore, if your heater internal thermostat fails, the heater controller will catch it. Personally, I have a heater with an internal controller connected to an aquarium controller connected to the Apex. that also has the ability to monitor temperature. And if it reaches what I set as the max temperature, it'll shut off all of them down the line. And so I have 3 lines of defense. As far as heater controllers, personally, I like the Inkbird. I have 2 different versions. I have the older version that is non-wireless, but the newer version is wireless, and as long as it's in with range with Wi-Fi, you can set it up, and remotely you're able to see the temperature on your phone. You're able to make adjustments and get alarms and settings if it disconnects, so you'd inadvertently get a notification that if you have a power outage because your heater's not connecting. So I highly recommend that beginner reefers put this on their list, that they do get a heater controller. And I recommend the Inkbird wireless version. I picked mine up on eBay new for I think $35 or $40. I think at the major fish stores they're about $50, but it's definitely worth its weight in gold. I've personally lost 2 tanks, and I can tell you that it's probably the most devastating thing whenever you lose an entire tank, especially you've put all that time and energy in, and you come in and see everything dead and the temperature at 104 degrees. It's definitely not a day you want to have and not something you want to experience. So my suggestion would be any heater should be backed up with a heater controller. Well, I think that's it for today's video. So if you found this useful, please hit the like button, leave a comment below with any suggestions or comments that you'd like to leave, and feel free to subscribe to the channel. This is a series of videos. I'm going to cover all the ideal parameters for a reef tank, so stay tuned for future videos. Until then, happy reefing.